Thomas for joining us on the show, having completed 10 Ironmans. You'll be able to watch that video on the Facebook page and listen again as a podcast on purewestradio.com. But time now to look ahead to the World Cup, which gets going this Sunday, and Wales, of course, play their first game at the tournament. In fact, this time next week, Wales will be playing. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff, isn't it? The USA game. I've got a feeling I might be doing the show on my own at this point next week. I haven't really thought about that, have we? But to preview it, just as he gets ready to head out to Qatar, really pleased to welcome back onto Pure West Sport Rees from the excellent Coleman Had a Dream podcast. How are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
It's really good to have you with us, and obviously to preview what's going to be an exciting World Cup for Wales, no doubt. Let's start at the beginning. The squad that Rob Page named, listened to the pod, heard some of your analysis with Ruth, and other than Tom Lockyer, it was pretty much the squad you expected, wasn't it?
I think so. You could definitely make a case for one or two others here and there. I think the big talking point was always going to be who replaced Norrington Davis after he unfortunately got injured. I thought if anyone, it was going to be James Lawrence, because he's a left footer, and obviously that's the position that Norrington Davis plays on the left of the three. But he's brought Lockyer back in from over a year out, so I think it's the right decision. I would have done the same. Not that my opinion carries too much weight with Rob Page, I'd imagine, but I think it's a strong decision, and I think it's the best thing for the squad as well. But yeah, no real surprises. I think Ruben Colwill was the other one who I was maybe a little bit surprised at. He's kind of been in and out of the Cardiff side with injury, and he's not on huge form at the moment. But I think he's a good player to have in there. So yeah, no real complaints or surprises, I'd say.
I know the three guys in the studio are itching to jump in, so I will let them in just a sec. The only other question I wanted to ask on the squad, Rob Page, very loyal, wasn't he, to the players that took him through qualification and actually to past tournaments as well. And he's had a bit of flack in some quarters for some of his comments there. On the one hand, I think it's going to be great management and it will get loyalty from his players. What did you make of that, Di?
I think he had to be loyal, to be honest. I think a big part of it probably was that you've gone from Premier League or Championship or whatever seasons, and within 5 days you finished your club football and you're straight in with the lads going to Qatar. People haven't got time to kind of bed into the squad or anything like that. So I think he probably wanted people who are going to be used to being around each other. I think the other thing is as well, you can't really replace what Chris Gunter or Johnny Williams or those sort of people bring into the team. And I think if we're being totally honest as well, any players that are talking about maybe replacing them, are they actually a huge deal better than what's there? I'm just not really sure it would be worth the hassle of not having them and replacing with other people. So for me, I think that loyalty is rightly placed, and I think he's done the absolutely right thing.
Okay, Fraser Watson.
Dave, obviously from this year and his Premiership, they have his focus around on Joe Allen. I think if history proves me right, if the first ever Premiership player to actually play in the World Cup, if he does make it to the pitch. But that is the salient point here, isn't it? Hasn't played for Swansea since September 17th. Yeah. Had a hamstring injury, had a reoccurrence of that injury during rehab. How big a gamble is it if he was to take to the field on that first game? And do you have any information or perhaps word on that? Is he likely to make the first game?
I mean, I would love to be the source of a great story for you, but unfortunately, I don't have anything for you there. It's a difficult one, isn't it? And I think he's so important for Wales that if there's any chance he can play, he's got to be in and around it. So for me, it's definitely a gamble worth taking. What I will say is I think in that USA game, they're a very kind of dynamic, fast, athletic team. They're coming off the end of their season, a lot of those players. They're going to be in tip-top condition. And I think a Joe Allen going in maybe, without match fitness, a bit half-baked, I would worry he'd get overrun. So if it were me, I think I would be playing Ampadu and Morel in that first game. I think, again, Ampadu's got a great passing range. I think he can be replaced relatively easily by Mepham at the back. But again, he's got that engine and that drive and that energy. So that's what I would be doing. I think Allen's definitely worth that place in the squad. And I think as we look at teams like, we look at the second game, then Iran, a bit of extra defensive solidity to let the attacking players kind of try and run riot in a must-win game, I think would be a good time to maybe bring him in. But I don't have any inside info. I saw him, video of him kind of on a stationary bike yesterday.
Yeah,
so
we all saw that.
Hopefully that's a positive sign somewhere along the line.
And just one more question before I pass on to a good. I think another issue hasn't actually ignited much of a debate yet is the goalkeeper. Obviously, we talked about Page's loyalty. Wayne Hennessy, great to him for a long time. Superb, actually, in that playoff game we were at against the Ukraine. But in terms of form, Danny Ward, after a shaky start to the season at Leicester, has actually come into real form in the last 5 or 6 weeks. And if you're going to pick logistically, you'd pick him as the number one for the USA. What do you think Robert Page will do in that department?
I think that's probably, along with the question marks about Allen, is probably the only real kind of squad decision or team decision he has to make. I think it's going to be so hard to take Wayne Hennessy out of that position. He was so good in those 2 qualifying playoff games. I think he deserves to keep that place. I think what's difficult, though, is that coming into these sort of games, you need someone who's going to be on the ball, and you need someone who's going to be match sharp. And that's where the difficulty comes in. So I personally think he'll stick with Hennessy.
Right.
Again, if it were me, I think I'd probably go with back to Ward, just because I think it's probably a bit more of a safe decision at the moment. But
logically, logic dictates though. Ward has been playing very well for Leicester, and he's playing games in the Premier League, isn't he?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. To be perfectly honest, I think it's one of those things. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I think if he picks Ward and Ward makes a mistake, everyone's hammering him, and the same other way around for Hennessy. And in the same way, if Hennessy plays well and makes a load of good saves, no one's going to say, "Well done, Rob Page." So I think he's a bit of a catch-22 there. But yeah, I think he'll probably stick with Hennessy for me.
Okay, Gordon.
Yeah, on the sort of form Wales have shown recently, Dave, how do you think we'll do in the group stages? Are you expecting us to qualify quite comfortably, or
tough third game?
Well, I don't think that'll probably be the easiest one, Dave. Let's be honest.
I would say so.
Yeah. It's no. All jokes aside, no. Do you think we'll qualify, get through to that next stage? I mean, in 1958, I wasn't about mine, but they got to the quarterfinals and lost to a certain goal against Brazil by a fellow by the name of Pelé. But they've done well. In 2016, they did so well. In that Euros tournament, they got nothing to lose. Wales. That's how I feel with the Welsh team, and also the experienced players they got, like Ramsey, Bale, Joe Allen there as well. Defensively, we might be a little bit ropey. Joe Roden, he'll be at the back there with the rest of them behind him. It'll be interesting, but I can see Wales doing okay. How do you feel?
I agree with you. I think we'll do okay. I think getting off to a good start in that USA game is a really big part of that. I think we can't lose that game. I think, 3 points there would be a huge bonus almost. I think we'll go out and beat Iran. They're in a little bit of disarray. There's some arguments going on about their squad. That squad announcement has been delayed. They beat Nicaragua, I think, in a friendly 1-0 the other day. So that is not exactly striking fear into my heart, I'll be honest. Obviously, the last game against those next door will obviously be a tricky one, and it's a game I'm kind of excited about and kind of dreading all at the same time. It's interesting looking at our form of late. I think we've won 1 of our last 5, but I think there's also a lot of context there, a lot of injured players, and we've just qualified for the tournament, and we're also playing Poland, the Netherlands, Belgium. Not exactly easy games, and none of those games we had our full squad either. So I don't know. It's very tricky. I think we will get out of the group. I think we'll beat the USA. I think we'll beat Iran, and then whatever happens against England happens. But yeah, it's going to be tight. I think we'll beat USA 1-0. I think Iran 1 or 2-0, and then we'll see how we go. Opposite to you, Gordon, I actually think we're quite strong at the back. I think that kind of strength, the resilience, I think that we've shown in those big games in the playoffs is something that's really shone through when we've really needed results. So I actually think there's a lot of strength.
The reason why I didn't want to be too critical, but Joe Roden didn't make Spurs, as a Premiership player. He's moved elsewhere.
Harsh though. I thought,
you're probably right.
Yeah, as a Spurs fan,
Ashley Williams, we had, who was a rock back in 2016, and all around him did well. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Wales fare against England. Will be a tough one, obviously, but the rest of them should be relatively winnable.
I think so. And I think the thing with Rodden as well, I think you're right. He struggled at Spurs for whatever reason, but I think he's gone to France now. He's, an integral part of their side. He's playing every single week. I think no one's doubting that he's got the ability in there. Somewhere he just kind of needed the platform to produce that, and I think he's doing it regularly over there. So hopefully he's a standout for us at the tournament.
We'll talk about who you think might win the tournament in just a sec, but we have to ask you about Gareth Bale, and we have to talk about Gareth Bale leading Wales into a tournament. And we laughed last week about his goal in the MLS Cup final, and said, he didn't look very injured when he celebrated, did he? he ran to the corner flag okay, but how key is Gareth Bale? Because I think more and more he's shown he's the talisman, isn't he? And he can come up with that moment of magic in a game that can turn it, and that's going to be crucial at a tournament like a World Cup. How big is he going to be? How confident are you he will be fit and be able to get through the group stage initially?
Fitness-wise, I honestly don't have any doubt. There's no question in my mind. He's been working over the last months with this solely as his priority. And if he got some game time for LAFC, then good for him. I don't think he's bothered. I think he's just solely been focused on this. He's obviously our biggest match winner. He's someone who can turn the game in the blink of an eye. I was critical of him in the last two games against Poland and Belgium. I really didn't think he kind of contributed much to those games when he came on. But he's Gareth Bale. You look at that goal. In America, it's something that only he can score. Really, I think he outjumps a 6'7" defender and smashes the ball in the back of the net, and that's what Gareth Bale does. So yeah, I have full confidence in him, and he's our main man, isn't he? He always seems to find that extra 10% when we play in a big tournament, and I see no reason why he won't be able to do that again this time.
I think he's been looking after himself, to be honest with you, as well, Di. He hasn't been stretching himself in the games. He knows the World Cup is the big stage, and that's when he's going to perform. So he'll give it his all for Wales, and I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Dave, in terms of you going out to Qatar now, I know for you work with obviously the Coleman Dream podcast, you are close to a lot of Wales groups. You do gauge the feeling of a lot of fans. Now, I think it's fair to say in Qatar you won't be the sort of antics we used to get to on Wales International Day, but I don't think those things will get past in Cardiff these days anyway.
It's another show. We'll have to return to that.
We'll do a late night special.
After 9. But is there an overall feeling of excitement, or is there trepidation, or a combination of the two, for the obvious reasons as to what's been highlighted over the country you're going to?
I think a little bit of both. I think it's one of those places that I think what people have in mind is not what it'll actually be like when we get out there.
Yeah.
I think that it's hard not to feel trepidation towards it. We don't need to make this into a geopolitical debate by any stretch of the imagination, but it's obviously an area where some people are going to be made to feel uncomfortable, and I obviously disagree with that. I think if you want to go to these places, I think you've got to be open to what they offer you, and I don't think it's going to be like a lot of people do. I think it is going to be different and it's going to be unique, but I also think you'd find this sort of thing in a lot of places. I think the drinking in hotels and the fan zones and whatever is going to go around it, I think is going to be a bit odd. Equally, having all of these fans from 32 different countries descend on what is essentially a city is going to be an amazing experience, I think. And I think you don't get that at any other World Cup that we've ever seen. So I think there's definitely upsides to it. And, there's downsides as well, of course, the obvious stuff. But I think for what it is, I think everyone who's going has just got to go and enjoy it for what it is. I think if you kind of look too far for problems, you can find them. And I just think we've got to go there and enjoy it. It's first time in 64 years. Let's absolutely make the most of it.
Yeah, too right.
Well,
okay. Well, listen, Di, travel safely and have a good time out there. Maybe not in the third game, but we'll come back to that at a later date. I know you're going to have a great time, and hopefully it will be a tournament we can talk about the football at. Let's just quickly finish because we are almost done. Who's going to win the World Cup, chaps? Fraser going to kick us off?
Oh, he loves us, doesn't he?
Other than Wales, like the romantic side of me, I'm going to go Brazil.
Okay, Gordon?
Too early to tell, isn't it?
Oh,
once the tournament starts,
man.
Okay,
no?
I'll throw in the hat. Belgium.
Okay.
Ooh.
Tom?
Well, I think I know what Dave's going to go for, so I'll go Argentina.
Yeah, I'm going to go England. Di?
Wales.
Well, surely that's you off the show. And that's you.
I'll say France. I think France are going to be good.
Back to back. No, I don't think it'll happen.
And the German squad, I've just got a feeling for Germany might be
Yeah,
quite good as well.
10-1 at the moment. Good bet.
Yeah, I fancy the Germans to go quite well. It pains me to say it, but I agree with Fraser. I think it'll be a Brazil-Belgium final. I think the Brazilians will just about nick it.
Okay. Episodes of the podcast whilst you're out there?
Yes, absolutely. We're going to take some recording stuff out there, going to do some chats, hoping to get some interviews and some chats with some fans when we're out there. Also, I've got a 4-hour layover on the way back from Abu Dhabi back to Amsterdam. So I'm sure I'll be trying to grab a few people once we're on that flight as well.
that podcast will be worth a listen. Absolutely right. That's the Coleman's.
Have a great time out there, Di.
Yeah,
I'm sure
Coleman
you
Had
will.
a Dream podcast. It's a great listen. So keep up the great work. Di, travel safely, and thank you for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, lads. Appreciate it.
Excellent stuff. So just a week to go until the World Cup starts. We'll be talking about it quite a bit, no doubt, on Pure West Sport. I tell you, we missed a trick there. I don't think we realised that the Wales game next week is going to be the same time as we're on the air. I mean,
No. When you're on air.
I'm on the It's going to be a long hour for me to film next week.
we should add here, Ben, that also I don't think you'll be winning another World Cup this month or next. There was 1-1 yesterday. I'm surprised.
Right.
I'm surprised you haven't come up with that one.
Yeah.
How good was
You
that?
missed it.
Well, we've had so much to talk about tonight. Brilliant, though, from the England white ball side, wasn't it? That T20 team.
Has to be said.
But I've been listening to you, Pierre, all year, criticising England, how bad they are, they can't travel, and then they go and win that.
Not in the white ball.
Not at T20.
No, the white ball.
Yeah,
50 first team to win the 50 over and the 20 over, aren't they, to hold that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Ben
it's
Stokes-
Well done, England.
Yeah, and Ben
And
Stokes,
And
Wales.
Ben Stokes, what a player.
I think Gordon's right. A word on him. That's 3 iconic innings now, and it's not. It's why yesterday was why we go down one of the greats. He's not in his best form, and it doesn't matter about stats. It's moments like
Make
that.
sure
where
you
you're
record
standing
this.
up. Moments like that where you're standing up when your country needs you, and then the pressure's on. He's done it.
And also Sam Curran's bowling, fair play.
Oh, top stuff.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll have some stuff to talk about from the football in the weeks ahead. Do check out Di's podcast, Coleman Had a Dream. It's a really, really good listen. Fraser, Gordon, Tom, I've enjoyed your company. We do need to go because KT is banging the door down and he's going to take over.
Literally, I can see him.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. Train is ready to go. He's on the way next. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. It's been a great show. Pure West Sport back next week. Good night.